At the communal channel, we bring you videos from dozens of content creators. It's a one-stop shop for entertaining content. Please consider subscribing for notification to daily new uploads. Thank you very much.
I'm going to be doing a no-bake cake. We're going to be using a pan on the stove, and hopefully this goes out really well. It's really easy and I pray that this goes well, guys. First thing you want to grab is your frying pan. The recipe says to use an 8-inch heavy bottom pan. I know this is a heavy bottom pan, but I don't think it's 8-inch because this is definitely a bigger one, so I doubled up the recipe. Here I'm using 60 grams of unsalted butter, and you don't want to fry or sizzle this butter. You just want to put the heat on low and let this melt slowly. I like to swirl it around in the pan just to help it melt a bit easier, and also grabbed a spatula, a silicone spatula, to kind of like crush up the butter a bit and speed up the process because this was taking longer than I thought. So once the butter is nicely melted, I'm going to grab some unsweetened cocoa powder. I use the Bourneville one, which is really good, and I'm using 50 grams of this. And this process is actually called blooming, I think, and I remember seeing a comment in one of my videos where you guys mentioned this, and this is my first time trying it. It's where you mix the cocoa powder in something warm or hot to help release the aromas or the taste of the cocoa powder. I don't know, but the cake was yummy in the end, so maybe this process does really work, you know. I've never tried it before. By the way, if you find this bit so satisfying to watch, make sure to hit that thumbs up button because it really helps you go out. So I'm now going to put this to the side to help it cool down a bit before I put the rest of the ingredients in. So now I'm putting some caster sugar in. It's 140 grams and 2 eggs, and I'm gonna quickly whisk this in. I'm using a silicone whisk so I don't damage my pan, because this is like my favorite pan. I literally cook all my stuff in it. I got it from Tesco and it's by the brand Go Cook. So yeah, you just want to give this a good mix, make sure everything is incorporated, and also make sure to get the edges as well, because sometimes some of the mixture just stays there and you kind of sometimes miss that out. And now I'm going to put in my dry ingredients. I'm using 80 grams of self-raising flour. I only have self-raising, so that's why I use all the time, and as well with 120 grams of milk. And you just want to slowly mix this in. I did sift my flour in so that I don't get any lumps or anything when I'm mixing this. And yeah, it was just really easy. The whole process was like so smooth, very convenient, very easy, and actually quite fun. I love that. My favorite thing about baking is just the mixing part. So now I'm going to use also 1 teaspoon of baking powder. This is optional, but I really wanted that rise in my cake, so I just added a bit more of this, even though it's already in a self-raising flour. But I always tend to do this. I always add a bit more of baking powder. So now I'm just grabbing my silicone spatula to make sure that everything is nicely incorporated, because as you can see here, there was some of the mixture stuck at the bottom. So yeah, now I'm going to put this to cook. I'm going to cover it. I actually found this as a cover, but I didn't like it because it didn't have a hole in it, so I ended up changing it, and I found this one right here, and as you can see, there's a little hole in it so the air can come through. So I'm going to cook this on a low heat for 20 minutes because I did double up the recipe. Make sure to keep an eye on it. I kept checking every now and then, but after 20 minutes it looks like this, and it rose really well. Is that even a word? A rose? Oh my god. So I took a toothpick to check that the cake was cooked, and the toothpick came out clean, so that was all good. And I also poked a bunch of holes in it because we're going to put some milk into the cake afterwards, and after this I'm just going to let my cake cool. So whilst the cake is cooling, I'm going to do my fudge ganache kind of thing. I'm using 200 grams of double cream and 35% milk chocolate, and I'm just going to put this on simmering water, and we're going to melt these two together. This is so satisfying. I love this bit. This was by far the best ganache I've ever made in my whole baking experience. Okay, this is a huge milestone for me because I don't really like rich chocolate, so this was just perfect. I also added 2 large tablespoons of Nutella, and this is optional, but this really gave a nice taste to the ganache. And to be honest, it's quite liquidy now, but once you cool it and once it's in the fridge, it's actually very fudgy. It's so nice. I could eat that whole bowl, like, no joke. Okay, now we're going back to the cake, and I'm gonna pour some milk into the cake. I actually made chocolate milk, which is where I just warmed the milk and I put a teaspoon of cocoa powder in, and I mixed that up really well. And we're just gonna pour this directly onto the cake, and make sure to do this all over and don't miss any areas. I also used a fork to poke some more holes into the cake just to help the milk go into it easily, because it was just kind of like sitting there. And then you just want it to look like this, and we can go ahead and pour our ganache on top. And oh my god, this stuff was so lush, and I actually thought maybe this was a bit too much, but it was actually the perfect amount. So I'm just going to even this out with my spatula, and I left it in the fridge for like 30 minutes. It was definitely better and more firm the next day, and the milk settled into the cake way better, but even after 30 minutes it's actually quite yummy, and it cut really nicely as well. But this is what it looks like, and I was actually quite proud of myself. I pulled this off. I made a cake in a pan. Like, what? I swear, who needs an oven?
We hope that you are enjoying this video. Please consider subscribing to our channel for notification to daily uploads from hundreds of talented content creators. Thank you.
We're going to separate out 6 eggs. Mama did it first. So we're going to put the whites in here because we're going to mix up the whites first, and then we're going to place the yellows in here because we will be using the mixer and mixing those up as well until they're frothy. So we're going to get started.
I get them out of the refrigerator a little early because cold eggs don't beat up as good as eggs that's been sitting out a while. Okay. I take 6 eggs and separate them. The whites I separate into the big mixer that I'm going to mix my egg whites up in. Okay. Then I set that back. I do this in phases because that way I keep things straight in my mind. I think it's better for anybody.
Okay, now we're going to measure out our flour and get that situated before we start mixing up our ingredients. So in a large bowl, we are going to take a sifter.
Sometimes I use not self-rising flour, but plain flour, and I have to put salt and all that in it. But I'm
using a 1/4 cup of sugar in our egg white.
Then I take the egg yellows, teaspoonful of vanilla extract. Then I put about a 1/4 cup of water in with that.
The first thing we're going to mix is the egg whites. So when you mix egg whites, your eggs should be room temperature. You're going to turn your mixer on. You're going to gradually add a 1/4 cup of sugar. Now we're going to add cream of tartar.
A teaspoonful of cream of tartar.
Now I let them beat just a minute on low while I'm adding the ingredients, and then after that you turn it up to a high. Now that's ready.
Okay, then I get that and I set it back when it gets done and put the yellows on the mixer. And I put the yellows in the beaters, same beaters. I rinse them off sometimes, sometimes I don't. Get that egg white off of them. But anyway, whatever you want to do. I beat the egg yellows in the water and the mix and the vanilla flavoring till it gets real frothy. It gets real frothy.
Okay, you can see that these eggs are like foam now. They just look like foam. And that's... Okay, we're going to start adding the rest of our dry ingredients while it's on low.
And beat the dickens out of them, because that makes them creamy. They turn into just a cream like.
Now we're going to take a large bowl, the one we had our dry ingredients in. We're going to put in our egg whites.
And then I take the egg yellows, pour over into the egg whites, and use my rubber spatula to fold them together. Don't stir it, but fold them over and over together till you get it all to look in the same color. Because if you put it in there and you put a lot of color in there in spots, then it won't look pretty whenever you cook it. I put this cake in the fair at Cedartown. I put it in the fair at Rome, which is about 50 miles from us. But anyway, I made first place, blue ribbons and everything every time because my color was pretty in it. It was all evenly
Distributed.
Yeah, that's the word. Distributed. And then I pour it in a pan that is a 10-inch tube pan with no Pam, no nothing on it, just plain pan. Take the knife and run down in there and try to get the air bubbles and stuff out of it. And then I put it in an oven that's 350 degrees for 45 minutes. Oh, let me tell you how to take this thing out of the pan.
Okay.
You take it out of the oven when it's cooked 45 minutes and you turn it upside down.
We're going to flip it upside down right here. And we're going to let it sit upside down. Get your sponge cake cooled down. You're going to take a spatula and run all the way around the edge. Let's go around the bottom edge as well. You might want to do bottom edge first. Now it's come out. You're going to take your spatula and you're going to go right up against the bottom. To pull that cake up off the bottom of this fluted pan. So, okay, I've been all the way around. And I'm going to use my small one because I don't want to mess up my pretty cake. Okay. Now we should be able to take it off the base. Just like that. Flip it up. Now my fingerprints are on the top. And sit it on your cake stand. Okay, you can see that it's very spongy to the touch. It's like a sponge, and that's why it's called sponge cake. It's good for you. It doesn't have a lot of ingredients and stuff in it that's bad for you as far as sugars and things. And you can actually reduce the sugar if you want to, and it'll still work. See, I have smashed it and it still fits in just perfect.
We hope that you enjoy this video. Please consider subscribing to our channel for notification to a great variety of daily uploads from some of the best content creators. Thank you very much.